December 1944. A decorated American paratrooper stands surrounded by 80 German soldiers. They've got him dead to rights. His own weapon is pointed at his chest. And Leonard Funk? He starts laughing. What happens in the next 45 seconds is the most insane thing you'll hear about World War II. 21 Germans dead, 1 American standing. This is how it went down. December 1944. Belgium. The snow is knee-deep and the temperature is brutal. Leonard Funk is leading 13 men through enemy territory during what will become known as the Battle of the Bulge. He's already earned the Distinguished Service Cross for actions in Normandy. He's already jumped out of planes into Nazi-occupied France. But nothing in his training prepared him for what's about to happen in a tiny Belgian farmhouse, because sometimes the difference between living and dying isn't about following the rules. It's about being absolutely crazy enough to break them. Let me set the scene for you properly, because you need to understand just how bad this situation was. The 82nd Airborne Division is getting hammered. Hitler has launched his last major offensive on the Western Front. Over 400,000 German troops are pushing through the Ardennes forest, trying to split the Allied forces in half and capture the port of Antwerp. The weather is so terrible that Allied planes can't fly. No air support, no supplies being dropped. Just men in foxholes with whatever ammunition they carried in. Leonard Funk is a first sergeant. That means he's the guy who keeps the unit running when officers are making plans. He's 30 years old, which makes him practically ancient compared to most of the kids in his company. He's from Braddock Heights, Pennsylvania, worked in a steel mill before the war. Not the kind of guy you'd expect to become one of the most decorated soldiers in American history. But here's what makes Funk different. He's already proven himself in combat multiple times. At Normandy, he led his squad through machine gun fire to knock out German positions. He did it so many times, they gave him the Distinguished Service Cross. That's the second highest military decoration you can earn. Only the Medal of Honor ranks higher. Now it's December 29th. His company has been ordered to clear out German positions in the Belgian countryside. The mission is straightforward on paper. Search farms and villages, root out any German soldiers, take prisoners if possible, kill them if necessary. Funk takes 13 men with him. They're moving through snow that's waist deep in some places. Their uniforms are soaking wet. Their hands are so cold they can barely feel their triggers. They've been at this for hours when they spot a farmhouse about 500 yards away. Standard procedure. They approach carefully, weapons ready, expecting either abandoned buildings or maybe a few terrified Belgian civilians hiding in their cellars. What they find, instead, is something completely different. 4 German soldiers walk out with their hands up. They're surrendering. This happens sometimes. By late 1944, plenty of German soldiers know they're losing. They're tired, they're cold, they're hungry, they want to go home. Funk's men take these 4 prisoners. Everything seems normal. They secure the Germans, confiscate their weapons. The prisoners are cooperative. They're not causing trouble. Then Funk makes a decision that almost kills him. He tells most of his men to march these 4 prisoners back to American lines. That's going to take time. You can't move fast through deep snow with prisoners in tow, so Funk keeps just 3 men with him. 4 total Americans. They're going to keep searching the area. That's when they hear voices coming from the farmhouse. German voices, lots of them. Funk and his 3 men move closer. They're trying to figure out what they're dealing with. Are these more soldiers ready to surrender? Are they enemies preparing to fight? You can't just walk away, because if you leave German troops behind you, they can attack your supply lines or ambush other units. They peek through a window. There are at least 80 German soldiers inside that farmhouse, maybe more. They're warming themselves by fires. They've got their weapons stacked in corners. They're eating whatever food they manage to scrounge. They're exhausted. Now, Funk has a massive problem. 4 Americans, 80 Germans. If those Germans see them, if they spot even one American soldier spying through the windows, all 4 of these men are dead. There's no fighting your way out of this. There's no running through waist-deep snow faster than bullets. But Funk can't just leave. His orders are clear. Neutralize German positions. Plus, these 80 soldiers could attack American positions later tonight. They could kill dozens of American troops. So Funk does something either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, depending on how you look at it. He walks up to the front door and kicks it open. Picture this moment from the German perspective. You're exhausted. You've been fighting for weeks. The Battle of the Bulge isn't going the way Hitler promised. You thought this offensive would win the war. Instead, you're retreating. You're losing. You found this farmhouse, and for the first time in days, you're warm and dry. Suddenly, the door explodes open. 4 American paratroopers are standing there. The first one through the door is this older guy with a Thompson submachine gun. He's got mud all over his uniform, ice in his hair, and he's pointing his weapon at all of you. But here's the thing. You've got 80 men in this room. He's got 3 guys backing him up. The math doesn't work in his favor. Yeah, he might kill 5 or 6 of you before you take him down, but you'll take him down. The German commander inside the farmhouse is thinking the same thing, except Funk doesn't give them time to think. He starts shouting in English and broken German. Hands up, don't move. You're prisoners of war. His 3 men spread out, covering different corners of the room. They're trying to look confident. They're trying to look like they've got backup right outside. They don't. The closest American troops are half a mile away. But the Germans don't know that. See, this is where psychology becomes more important than firepower. Funk is betting everything on shock and confusion. He's betting that these German soldiers are tired enough and demoralized enough that they won't immediately fight back. He's betting they'll assume this is a trap, that more Americans are right outside ready to storm in. And for a few seconds it works. The Germans raise their hands. They start moving toward the center of the room. Funk's men are collecting weapons. They're stacking rifles in the corner. Everything is going according to plan, until it isn't. The German commander is watching this whole thing unfold. He's looking at these 4 Americans. He's counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. No more soldiers coming through the door. No backup arriving. This commander has been fighting since 1939. He's survived Poland, France, Russia, and now Belgium. He didn't survive 5 years of war by being stupid. He can see what's happening here. This is a bluff, so he makes eye contact with a few of his men. Just a look. That's all it takes when you've been fighting together for years. You develop this silent communication. 3 German soldiers near the back of the room slowly lower their hands. They're moving toward weapons that weren't collected yet, moving so slowly that Funk's men don't notice at first. Then it happens fast. 1 German grabs a rifle, swings it up toward the nearest American. That American is Funk's radio man. The kid barely has time to shout a warning before the German commander gives an order. All 80 Germans rush forward at once. Funk's 3 men are overwhelmed in seconds. The Germans aren't killing them, not yet. They're taking them prisoner, disarming them, pushing them against the wall. And Funk, he's got 2 German soldiers grabbing his Thompson submachine gun. They're pulling it away from him. Another German has grabbed his pistol. They've stripped him of both weapons in about 5 seconds. Now here's where it gets interesting. The German commander walks over. He's holding Funk's own Thompson, pointing it at Funk's chest. The barrel is maybe 6 inches from Funk's heart. This commander speaks pretty good English. He tells Funk, congratulations. You almost pulled it off. But now you're our prisoner. You and your men are going to be marched to a POW camp. If you cooperate, you'll live. If you fight, you'll die right here. Reasonable offer under the circumstances. Funk looks at this German commander, looks at his own weapon pointed at his chest, looks at his 3 men being held at gunpoint against the wall, and Leonard Funk starts laughing. Not nervous laughter, not the kind of laugh you make when you're scared and trying to hide it, I'm talking about a deep, genuine laugh, like someone just told him the funniest joke he's ever heard. The German commander is confused. His men are confused. Funk's own soldiers are confused. What is happening right now? The commander asks Funk. What's so funny? You just lost. You're outnumbered 20-1. You're going to prison camp if you're lucky. What could possibly be funny about this situation? Funk keeps laughing. He's shaking his head, wiping tears from his eyes like this is the best comedy show he's ever seen. And while everyone is staring at him wondering if this American has lost his mind, Funk's right hand moves toward his hip. See, there's something the Germans missed. When they stripped Funk of his weapons, they took his Thompson, they took his pistol, but Funk had a third weapon, a smaller pistol tucked into his belt on his right side. It's a 45 caliber M1911. 7 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. The German commander is still holding that Thompson, still pointing it at Funk's chest, still trying to figure out why this American won't stop laughing. Funk's hand wraps around the grip of that hidden pistol. Now let me explain something about Leonard Funk that makes what happens next possible. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been in combat since D-Day. He's been in situations where a split-second decision means life or death. He's practiced drawing his weapon and firing until it's muscle memory. He doesn't have to think about it. His body just knows what to do. The German commander sees Funk's hand move, sees him pulling out that pistol. The commander's finger is on the trigger of that Thompson. All he has to do is squeeze, and Funk is dead. But Funk is faster. Point-blank range. Funk draws his 45 and shoots the German commander in the chest before the man can react. The commander drops. The Thompson clatters to the floor, and now everything happens in a blur. The Germans closest to Funk are frozen for maybe half a second. That's how long it takes their brains to process what just happened. Their commander was just shot. This American prisoner just killed him. Half a second is an eternity in a gunfight. Funk spins. He's shooting at the nearest Germans. 1 shot, another German drops. 2 shots, another one falls. He's moving the whole time, not standing still. That's rule number 1 if you want to survive. Keep moving. Make yourself a harder target. The farmhouse erupts into chaos. 80 Germans are scrambling for weapons. They're shouting orders at each other. They're trying to figure out where to shoot. Because Funk is moving so fast, they can't get a clean shot without hitting each other. Funk's 3 men see their chance. One of them dives for a rifle that was stacked in the corner. Another one grabs a German soldier and uses him as a shield. The third one just drops to the floor and crawls towards the door. Funk is still shooting. 3 shots, 4 shots, 5. Each shot drops a German soldier. He's not missing. At this range with this many targets, you can't miss even if you tried. But he's got 8 rounds total. He's already used 5. 3 shots left. The nearest German is maybe 10 feet away, raising a rifle. Funk shoots him. 6 shot. The German goes down. 2 rounds left in the pistol. Another German is right behind the first one. Funk shoots him too. 7th shot. 1 round left. Funk looks around the room, counts the bodies. The German commander, plus 6 more dead. 7 Germans down in the time it takes to tell this story. Maybe 10 seconds have passed since he started shooting, but there are still 73 Germans in this room, and Funk has 1 bullet left. This is the moment where most people would run. Try to get out the door. Try to escape into the snow and hope they can make it to American lines before getting shot in the back. Funk doesn't run. He drops to 1 knee, grabs the Thompson submachine gun that the German commander dropped. The same weapon that was pointed at his chest 30 seconds ago. The Thompson holds 30 rounds in a stick magazine. It fires about 800 rounds per minute. In close quarters against unarmored targets, it's absolutely devastating. Funk flips the safety off and starts firing. The sound inside that farmhouse must have been deafening. A Thompson in full automatic sounds like someone ripping apart the world. It's not individual shots, it's one continuous roar. Germans are diving for cover. They're trying to get behind furniture, behind each other, behind anything that might stop bullets. It doesn't matter. Funk is sweeping the weapon back and forth, controlled bursts, 3 or 4 rounds at a time. He learned this in training. You don't just hold the trigger down and pray. You fire in bursts, control the recoil, make every shot count. One German gets hit trying to reach a window. Another one drops trying to aim a rifle. A third one falls backward over a chair. The magazine runs dry. Funk drops. It pulls a fresh one from his belt, slams it home. Takes him maybe 2 seconds, starts firing again. His 3 men have grabbed weapons now. They're shooting too, but they're following Funk's lead. He's the one pressing forward. He's the one making the Germans panic, because that's what's happening here. These Germans are panicking. Think about it from their perspective. 5 seconds ago, they had this situation under control. They'd captured 4 Americans, easy prisoners. Then their commander gets shot. Then 6 more men go down. Then this American prisoner is standing in the middle of the room with a Thompson spraying bullets everywhere. You can be the bravest soldier in the world, but when bullets are flying past your head and men are dropping all around you, your brain goes into survival mode. You stop thinking about tactics. You stop thinking about honor. You think about living through the next 5 seconds. Half the Germans in that room are trying to surrender again. They're throwing their weapons down, putting their hands up, shouting that they give up. The other half are trying to fight back or run. Funk is making split-second decisions about who's a threat and who isn't. That German reaching for a weapon? Threat. Shoot him. That German dropping his rifle and backing away? Not a threat right now. Let him go. This is the part that's hard to explain to people who've never been in combat. Everything is happening so fast, but your brain is processing information at lightning speed. You're not thinking in words, you're just reacting. Another German tries to run for the door, gets cut down by one of Funk's men. 2 more Germans try to jump out a window. Funk shoots one. The other one makes it through the window but leaves a blood trail in the snow. The whole fight lasts maybe 45 seconds from the moment Funk shoots the German commander to the moment the last shot is fired. When the smoke clears, 21 Germans are dead or dying. Another 50-some. Germans have their hands up, surrendering for real this time. A few managed to escape out windows or doors, but they're running through waist-deep snow with no weapons. They're not a threat. Funk is standing in the center of the room. His Thompson is smoking. There are shell casings all over the floor, blood everywhere. The smell of gunpowder is so thick you can taste it. His 3 men are staring at him like they just watched a ghost walk through walls. And Funk? He's calm. He's already moving to the next task. Secure the prisoners, collect the weapons, set up a perimeter in case more Germans show up. He tells one of his men to go find the rest of their squad, the ones who were marching the 4 prisoners back to American lines. Tell them to come back. They've got about 80 prisoners to process now. The Germans who are still alive aren't resisting anymore. They're in shock. Some of them are wounded. Some are just standing there with their hands up, not moving. One sergeant has this job now. He's trying to organize the other Germans, separate the wounded from the healthy, figure out who needs medical attention. They're being cooperative because they just watched one American kill 21 of their comrades in less than a minute. They don't want to find out what happens if they give him a reason to start shooting again. When the rest of Funk's squad shows up, they can't believe what they're seeing. They left 4 guys here to scout the area. They come back to find 80 German prisoners, 21 bodies, and Funk calmly smoking a cigarette like he just finished a regular day at work. One of the soldiers asks him what happened. Funk shrugs, says they got the drop on us for a minute, but we worked it out. Like he didn't just pull off one of the most insane combat actions in World War II history. Now let's talk about what happens after. Word spreads fast in the military. By the next morning, everyone in the 82nd Airborne knows the story. By the end of the week, it's travelled to other divisions. By the time the Battle of the Bulge ends, it's one of those legends that soldiers tell each other to stay motivated. The official after-action report describes it in dry military language. First Sergeant Leonard Funk led a patrol that encountered and neutralized a superior enemy force. Approximately 80 enemy soldiers taken prisoner, 21 enemy killed in action. No friendly casualties, no friendly casualties. That's the part that makes this story even more crazy. 4 Americans walked into a room with 80 Germans. Those same 4 Americans walked out alive, with 80 prisoners. The army investigates because they always investigate when something sounds too good to be true. They interview Funk's men. They interview the German prisoners. They examine the farmhouse, count the bodies, count the shell casings, look at the blood spatter patterns. Everything checks out. The story is real, so the army does what the army does. When someone does something incredibly brave, they recommend him for the Medal of Honor. Now, the Medal of Honor isn't just another medal. It's the highest military decoration the United States can award. It's given for actions above and beyond the call of duty, for risking your life when you didn't have to, for doing something so extraordinary that it deserves special recognition. Only about 3,500 people have ever received it. Out of millions who've served in the military, it's that rare. The paperwork goes up the chain of command. Battalion approves it, regiment approves it, division approves it. It gets to General Maxwell Taylor, who commands the 101st Airborne. He reads the report, calls Funk in for a personal interview. Taylor asks him to walk through exactly what happened. No exaggeration, no making himself look better, just the facts. Funk tells him the same story I just told you. Taylor approves the recommendation, sends it up to Army Group. They approve it, sends it to Supreme. Headquarters. General Eisenhower's staff reviews it. In January 1945, the recommendation is approved. Leonard Funk will receive the Medal of Honor. But there's a problem. The war isn't over yet. Funk is still in combat. The 82nd Airborne is pushing into Germany now. They're fighting through the Siegfried Line, through the Ruhr Valley, toward Berlin. You don't pull soldiers out of combat just to give them medals. The medals can wait. Winning the war can't. So Funk keeps fighting. He's still a first sergeant, still leading his men, still doing the same dangerous work he was doing before. In February, he's wounded by shrapnel from a German artillery shell. Not serious enough to take him out of action. He gets patched up and goes back to his unit. In March, his unit is one of the first to cross the Rhine River. They're in Germany now. The enemy is retreating, but they're fighting hard. Every town, every bridge, every river crossing is contested. In April, Funk's unit reaches the Elbe River. That's where they'll stop. The Soviets are pushing from the east. The Americans and British are pushing from the west. The plan is to meet somewhere in the middle and crush what's left of the German army between them. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. Funk survives the entire war. D-Day to VE Day. Normandy, Holland, Belgium, Germany. He fought in every major campaign the 82nd Airborne participated in. The army finally has time to do medal ceremonies properly. On June 28, 1945, Leonard Funk receives his Medal of Honor from General Maxwell Taylor in a ceremony in France. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty." First, Sergeant Funk distinguished himself by extraordinary heroism in action against the enemy near Holzheim, Belgium. When his patrol was surrounded and outnumbered by enemy forces, First Sergeant Funk, with complete disregard for his own safety, eliminated the enemy threat and secured 80 prisoners. His actions were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service. That's the official version. the version that gets recorded in military archives and history books. But the soldiers who were there, they tell the real story about the man who laughed at death and then killed 21 Germans in 45 seconds because dying wasn't in his plans that day. Leonard Funk went home after the war, back to Pennsylvania, back to the steel mills. He didn't write a book, didn't go on speaking tours, didn't try to make money off his Medal of Honor. He just went back to regular life. He got married, had kids, worked at the mill for 30 more years. When people asked him about the war, he'd tell them some stories, but he never made a big deal out of what he did. To him, it was just his job. You do your job and then you come home. He stayed active in veterans organizations, the 82nd Airborne Association, the Medal of Honor Society. He'd go to reunions and see the men he served with, swap stories, remember the friends who didn't make it home. In 1973, Leonard Funk died at the age of 58. Heart attack. Quick. Probably didn't feel much pain. His funeral was attended by hundreds of people, veterans, family, friends, people from his hometown who remembered him as just a regular guy who happened to do something extraordinary during the war. The Army sent representatives. The 82nd Airborne sent a color guard. He was buried with full military honors in a cemetery near his home. His Medal of Honor is on display now at the 82nd Airborne Division War Memorial Museum at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You can go see it if you want. It's in a glass case along with his other medals and some photos from the war. But the real memorial to Leonard Funk isn't in a museum. It's in the stories that veterans still tell. About what's possible when you refuse to give up, about how one person can change the outcome of a battle, about the importance of laughing at death, because if you let fear control you, you're already dead. The Germans in that farmhouse had every advantage: numbers, weapons, position. They had Funk surrounded and disarmed. By every logical measure, they won. But they didn't account for the fact that Leonard Funk didn't care about logic. He cared about staying alive and keeping his men alive. Everything else was just details to work out. That's the lesson here. It's not about being the strongest or having the most weapons or the best position. It's about refusing to accept defeat, even when defeat seems certain. It's about finding that one opening, that one chance, and taking it before your brain has time to tell you it's impossible. The German commander made one mistake, just one. He assumed that because he had the upper hand, he would keep it. He didn't shoot Funk immediately because he wanted prisoners, wanted information, wanted to follow the rules of war. Funk didn't give him time to regret that. Decision. In war, in life, sometimes the person who wins isn't the person with the best plan. It's the person willing to act decisively when everyone else is still thinking about what to do. Funk saw his opportunity, saw that hidden pistol on his hip, saw the German commander holding that Thompson but not paying quite enough attention, and he took his shot. Everything after that was just follow through. Once you commit to action, you can't hesitate. You can't second-guess yourself. You move forward until either you win or you're physically unable to continue. Funk moved forward. 21 Germans didn't. The Battle of the Bulge lasted another 3 weeks after this incident. Thousands of soldiers on both sides died in the fighting. The Allies eventually won and pushed the Germans back. The war continued for another 4 months, but in that one farmhouse on that one day, Leonard Funk taught everyone watching that the fight isn't over until you decide it's over. The Germans decided the fight was over when they captured him. Funk decided it wasn't. That's the difference between going home and going to a POW camp, between living and dying, between being forgotten and being remembered as one of the most decorated soldiers in American history. His final tally: Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, Bronze Star with oak leaf cluster, Purple Heart with 2 oak leaf clusters, Presidential Unit Citation, and about a dozen other medals and commendations. but ask anyone who knew him, and they'll tell you he was most proud of the fact that he brought most of his men home. That was always his primary job, not winning medals, not becoming famous, just making sure the young soldiers under his command had a chance to go home to their families when the war ended. He did that job about as well as anyone could. If you want more stories like this about soldiers who refused to quit even when everything went wrong, that video right there covers another one that'll blow your mind.